Welcome to the Return on Life podcast, where we discuss all things financial and freedom through the game of real estate, focusing on building a fulfilling and purpose-driven life. Welcome back, everyone, to the Return on Life podcast. My name is Randy Dyck. And if you've been listening or not listening, I'm going to remind you that this is not about the ROI. I mean, ROI is important, but it's really about the return on life, or the ROL, that's so important. And today's guest is really going to help us understand that. I've got an amazing, great guest that I'm really excited about. I've got Nathan Yeung with us, and Nathan is the founder of Find Your Audience. Find your audience. Think about that. Find your audience. Tons of experience, decades of experience working in the business to business part of the world in marketing. He's worked some incredible companies across Canada, United States, and he's even worked with a shark. So he's worked with Robert Herjavec, and he's got 18 years of SEO, which, I mean, SEO is a mystery in itself. And then 18 years, oh my goodness. So we've got lots of fun stuff happening here. And one more piece I think is really important is that he's been a guest lecturer at many universities, including Berkeley. So welcome here, Nathan.
Thanks so much for having me on today.
So good. Hey, well, let's just tear right into that concept of return on life. And maybe you've got an idea what return on life means for you personally, but you're in the game of business and helping other business owners. And I like this. You've said you're a fractional CMO, which is really cool. So you maybe touch on return on life with that context.
I think, if we want to talk about return on life and return on investment, what's a poor investment is hiring a full-time CMO for a business that just doesn't need it. I think a lot of the times, then the whole reason I started this business was I recognized that having a full-time CMO for a lot of organizations just doesn't make sense, especially if you're sub $5 million. Like, you really don't need it. Because you don't even have the human capital or the financial capital for you to fully maximize some of the opportunities or tactics that you're currently utilizing. So you don't really need to reassess or constantly have someone who is reviewing your strategy all the time. So you're paying this six-figure salary for someone who's not going to be utilized. And it really doesn't make any sense. If you're breaking 5 to 10, then yeah, maybe you need a CMO. But until then, you do need direction though, right? And I think that's really the whole point of being a fractional CMO. I'm trying to provide a valuable service at a reasonable cost because you don't need me full time. And more importantly, you need a team to help execute that. And I think that's the more important part. So not only do you need someone who will give you the guidance on what I call the highest probability bets in marketing, because I'm sure everyone here is listening, you've been inundated with potential tactics, right? Every shiny object happens to, fly onto your TikTok to teach you something new. But do they really work? And is it the right time for you to invest your energy into that? That's my job to tell you yes or no. But then after I leave and I say, hey, yes to all these things, you still need to execute. And that's really what we do. So providing just good ROI to our clients is, paramount to our business. And also what I enjoy, if you want to talk about return on life, I love this business. I've worked with 50 plus different clients across so many different industries. I'll be honest, the marketing service business isn't the most profitable business, but in terms of intellectual return, absolutely amazing. The amount I learned from this business is incredible. The amount I learned from all the experts that I get to work with is incredible. And I can't replace it. There's no value to that.
There's this saying, possibility or probability. And of course, we always want the probability, knowing what's going to happen, not just guessing at what's going to happen. And I like that you shared that. The cool thing, I think, with you is that you're working with multiple different companies in multiple different industries that you can bring ideas from another business, another industry to somebody. They would never see it if they had their own in-house marketing team.
That's 100% correct. And I think that's also why it's hard to find marketing talent. A lot of the times the marketing talent that you'll see, they'll either come from agencies or they'll come from corporate. And inside of an agency, depending how long they've been working there, they still might be only technical people. So they might be one person who has a technical aptitude in one area of marketing, but works across multiple clients. So they're very good, but they don't necessarily know anything else. So that means you have to be hiring them knowing that's the technical talent that you need, or you're working with a manager who has really good exposure, but there's few and far between. There's not a lot of manager roles in these agencies, and they don't really turn over all that much. And then you have corporate. And then corporate is a person who's a generalist, but they're a generalist in a very specific industry. So a lot of the times in the talent pool, you get these people that have great experience, but they have great experience within a limited scope in terms of the world of things, in terms of industries and categories a business can operate in. And what I can tell you is, and this is a saying that I've told to a lot of companies, and they kind of give me a weird look when I say it to them. I say every single channel, every single tactic actually works for every single business. But that's not the point. The point is, when is it right for you to enter that channel for growth? And a lot of the times they don't understand that because, one, they might not even have a single channel that's working, but there's a reason why enterprises, there's a reason why $100 million revenue companies are utilizing literally every single channel and tactic. It's because every single channel and tactic have a limited amount of inventory of which will convert into a sale. So once you maximize one channel, you have to move to another channel to find more people. And so that's the reason why there's quote unquote omni-channel. That's why so many enterprise companies are omni-channel, is because the amount of people you can reach saturates at a certain point, but most companies can't even saturate one channel. And this is the one thing that I really emphasize to a lot of companies. It's like, you probably aren't even saturating the current channel you're doing well in.
So true. So true. I do a lot of coaching on prospecting and where to find your avatar, your perfect clients, which is really what you're talking about. And I find that many solo entrepreneurs, they are trying to do too many channels, and they're not touching any of them well or doing any of them well. And I say, listen, you got to start with two, maybe three channels of marketing, and then hone your skill and get those one or two channels going well. And then you can start looking at others. But shiny object syndrome happens all the time. And here's the other piece. Maybe you can touch on that, and just even touch on maybe the subjectivity of marketing. It's hard sometimes to see the ROI on some of these marketing pieces, but maybe touch on both of those.
I think what sucks about marketing is two things. Is one, I think we inherently think that we're all great marketers because marketers do such a great job in doing marketing that you think marketing is easy, right? Because my whole job is to have whatever I do memorable. And if I do a good enough job, you remember it. So therefore, when you remember it, you think it's easy for it to be reproduced. But that's not the case. It's like, how do I get to that point? So a lot of entrepreneurs will go, yeah, marketing is easy. I can do 3 or 4 channels. And typically they're wrong. And the second thing is that marketing often gets hyper analyzed. And what I mean by that is, for some reason, when you're doing outreach with your own time, you never sit down and calculate how much time you have spent. So for example, I know that a lot of the listeners here are solo entrepreneurs or solo business owners. You never calculate your hourly rate. So if you're a real estate agent or a mortgage broker, you have a salary, you can break it out, and you might be earning $200, $300 an hour based on a 480-hour work week. If you were to break that out and you were to say, hey, Nathan, you know what, I'm not liking this because I can close a deal and that's going to cost me, 1 hour of my time and, a dinner, and that's, $400. And I go, well, let's hold up for a second here. How long did it take for you to find that individual? How many times did you go for coffees with them or meet up with them? How long did it take you to drive to dinner? How much was that dinner? How many dinners did you have? Let's calculate all of those hours before you make the generous assumption that was the cost to acquire that one customer, and it was really easy for you. It wasn't. It took a lot of time, but you've never broken it out like that to actually calculate, oh, it actually cost me like $2,000 worth to actually get that. But then when it comes to marketing, they'll go, oh, Nathan, you're getting me a lead for $20. And that's really expensive because we got to get like 100 of them and only like 2 of them convert. And, that just doesn't work for me. It's like, well, you spent $2,000 on a single person. You're not allowing me to even send you $2,000 worth of leads because it's too expensive. And it's this hyperfixation that marketing is this golden tool that just produces things from a tree, like a tree, like just literally a money tree. And it will. So I am saying everyone here, it will, but you hyper analyzing it and not being honest with yourself and measuring it against any other funnel that's working for you and being honest with how much money you're spending there, whether it be intrinsic or explicit, hard dollars or just your time, you have to match it with that. And when you do, you will see the benefit through time. But trying to make it seem like you'll get leads for $1 and it's magically going to turn into $5,000 worth of sales, you're kidding yourself. And all you're going to do is piss off your marketer, and they're just going to be mad and they're not going to do a good job. So I think that's why we see marketing fail a lot of the time.
Hmm. So then, what are the keys? What are the keys for, or how do you help people see what the key pieces are to building out marketing that works, that is sustainable, that is consistent? Because, we see people that kind of get a flash in the pan opportunity of response, and then it falls flat. What are some of the keys?
I think the first key is exactly what I just said, is be honest with yourself.
Hmm.
And be honest with the failures you had with whatever first sales initiatives you've ever started, and be honest with yourself of how many times you had to iterate before you hit it home. Because it was likely not the first networking dinner. It was likely not the first, one-on-one dinner that turned into a sale. It probably took you some time to hone your pitch and hone your skills to identify who's actually going to be worth your time. And when marketing starts, you have to be honest with yourself that you're going to have to spend that same amount of time, but it's going to come in a different way. And that's going to be through optimizing that funnel and choosing that one funnel and working on that funnel until it works, I think is really important. You brought up a great point there about sustainability. The number one thing that I tell clients is just look at yourself and just say, hey, I'm not comfortable meeting people. I'm actually better on the phone. Okay, so you're going to be a dialer. That's fine. That's sustainable. So let's go figure out how we can support your dialing campaigns. Another person might go, hey, you know what? I hate really being on the phone, but I love doing coffees. Okay, let's go figure out a map of potential ICPs, ideal customer profiles, and let's figure out if we can logistically and efficiently plan a way for you to scale being outbound in coffees and creating meetings and email cadences to get those meetings so that you're efficient with those time, because that's, again, sustainable and practical for you because you can do it well and you can do it for a long period of time because it doesn't burn you out. Where you're going to see a ton of failures is you're going to get someone who has never done a TikTok video openly admit to all their friends that they say they hate being on video, watching a TikTok video, being convinced by a guy like me saying TikTok's the greatest thing since sliced bread and it's going to make or break your business if you do a TikTok video, and you going home and buying a tripod, buying a ring light, getting my setup back here and doing videos, but you hate it. You hate it. And every time you do it, you hate it. So all you're going to do is you're going to drive down, one, the outcome, so it's not practical for you. And then two, you're going to drive down your own personal ROI, right? If you think about it, it's good return on life. You're draining yourself of life because you're doing something you hate, and it's not going to be sustainable. So I really tell people it's really quite simple. Find what is practical and sustainable for you and saturate it. So if that's emailing, then do emailing. If that's cold calling, do cold calling. If that's going for coffees and pounding pavement, then do that. If that's going to every single networking event because you love being social, then do that. And until you don't have any more social events to go to, that's when you go, oh, maybe I'll do those TikTok videos now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always say this to anybody that I'm working with too. First of all, I want to find out what their passions are. What do you love doing? What makes you get excited, makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Because if I can find that, then I can start to build a marketing channel or a prospecting channel or a way that they can build their business. And it's so important because if you hate it, you ain't going to do it. You're just not going to do it.
100%.
Does does your work and what you teach and what you help people do, does it translate from business to business, industry to industry, or is it very, very specialized?
That's a great question. Our framework and our approach is industry agnostic, and I can explain it. So, our approach is three-pronged. It's trust,
Mm-hmm.
operations, and strategy. And if you break those three out, trust is broken out by authenticity, empathy, and logic. So, how is your business demonstrating that? Operations is broken out by what is practical and sustainable, and strategy is where do you want to play and how do you want to win. And if I were to really nail down the most, you know, tactile takeaway, is let's focus on not the trust part or the strategy part right now, but if we focus in on the sustainable and practical part, there are three major constraints for you to define what is practical and sustainable. And it's really, really simple. One is, what is your human capital constraint? So if you are by yourself, you got to analyze yourself. What are your constraints?
Mm-hmm.
Two is, what is your financial constraint? How much money are you willing to put into the business or into yourself to do this marketing? And then the third part is time. And I know that sounds silly, but you know what? You're an entrepreneur. You should give yourself some timelines. You have to ask yourself, when is the latest time that you could potentially find a lead before you give up or before your business dies? One or the other.
Mm.
And I say that because I've worked with some companies that have been backed by VC. I don't have timelines, right? It's hey, make it or break it. You need to hit break even, or you need to hit a target number of acquisitions. Um, Sometimes I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at those three constraints, and then you match it with what is sustainable and practical for you, you'll recognize there's a very limited pool of tactics you can actually go into.
Mm.
And I think that is the main approach that actually works for every single company. Any business, B2C or B2B, can use that framework to go, what am I going to do today? If you look at it on the three constraints and then you match it with what's practical and sustainable for the business, you'll realize there's not a whole lot of options.
Mm.
So those are the ones you're going to execute on.
Yeah.
And if you want to execute on anything outside of that, you're probably going to have a financial constraint.
Mm-hmm. I would think that one of the biggest challenges for you is to keep people going. Many will give up. Will give up way too early. At least I see that. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely. And I think that's, again, something where I think marketing just gets shafted on all the time. People will hire agencies expecting results within 3 months. And if you really look at it, and if you talk to any sales, senior sales member of any large organization, you're not going to see a sales member produce results probably until the 6th month, right? Because usually within the first 2 months, it's training and onboarding. So why is it that for some reason, most business owners will go to a marketing person and just assume that they have this golden key, and they turn that golden key in 3 months, they start building results. And
Mhm.
you're often just putting your marketing firm in a position for failure. And you're also not allowing a professional to optimize a funnel. Like, people have to recognize there's a couple things that are happening when you hire an agency, especially if your marketing function is what I call immature or very young. You are essentially not only you're building a brand new process from scratch. You're collecting data from scratch. And the
Mm.
goal of that marketing person is to do that as prudently as possible and hopefully as fast as possible for you. But if you don't have a lot of money, then that takes time, and you just have to be patient. So I would say, if you're looking at a lot of the times our companies will push for returns within 6 months. I'll say that's fair, but I'll preface that in the sense of, hey, we're going to get you a result in 6 months for sure. Absolutely. There's no way I'm not going to get you a result. Now, the question is that result going to be good enough for you? That's a different story. But the point here is that if I don't get you a result, then I fail at my job, because my job is to deliver you high probabilities. That's my experience. That's what you're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't give you that result, then you should fire me. But you can't fire me because I gave you a result that you did not like in the sense of cost. Let me show you how you can decrease cost. But if I get you that result, that's only the first step. You have to get that result before you can figure out what to optimize. And I think that's also another layer of expectation that needs to be educated to a lot of people.
That was, you got to rewind that, everybody, because that was magic, what Nathan just shared there about that process and so forth. So rewind it, re-listen to that. That was really, really good. Nathan, if there's so many different marketing channels, lanes, whatever we want to call it, and they're always changing, and there's new ones entering the program, but could you name the top 3, 4, 5 channels that everybody, no matter what business, what industry, they should be in these channels?
So I think the first 3 that I can say hands down in every business I've ever been in works. I am going to heavily preface this in the sense that the order of which you invest in these are very different. Okay, so I'm going to say search, paid search works, but I will tell you it is seldomly the first place you start. I will say events work, period. And if I were a solopreneur today, that is where I will start. I will not start in ads. I will start in events. The third thing is SEO, search engine optimization, and organic rankings. Works for every industry, but it takes time. So you're looking at results anywhere between 6 to 12 months. And by the way, when I say that, I mean, that's just for you to get traffic. That's not even for you to optimize your funnel. Now, the reason why that's so important is because organic plays is basically like a dividend. It is a money tree. In the long term, it will just give you money. So it's a long-term play that definitely pays if you invest into it today. The fourth thing, which I think people will question me on, is direct mail. And direct mail works for a lot of companies, but I will say it doesn't work for every single company, especially if we think that their target market is typically not in a fixed location. So a good example of this are people that work in restaurants. They're in fixed locations. People that work in government typically are relatively fixed locations. Any public serving job, people in fire stations, police officers, things like that, they're in a fixed location. So sending them direct mail actually works. When you're looking at really, really fancy async remote technology businesses, direct mail is not going to work. And it would be very suspect if you were able to get the residential addresses. So, I do think direct mail is an amazing channel, and probably actually one of the channels I would start on a local level. So I wouldn't, if I was a SaaS company, I wouldn't say, hey, do a direct mailer across Canada. I would do it in your backyard. And that plays into one of the other important things that I really stress to people is network effects play a major role in your marketing, and not utilizing or strategically planning around network effects will hinder your gains and your return on investment for marketing. So that's why direct mail in your local neighborhood and really saturating your local neighborhood, your backyard, plays a major role in, I think, you winning in your market.
Okay, so page search, events, SEO, direct mail are the 4 that you've named. I wasn't thinking of events. I really, and I do events too, and I see the value of them. It's just, I wasn't thinking that was. I thought you'd be hitting socials.
So the reason I don't hit social is because social is a strategic play. And I literally just had a conversation with a client yesterday who's an insurance broker and building a large insurance team. And every single agency he's talked to said, do social. And I looked at him and I was like, do you even like being on video? He's like, no. I was like, so what are you doing? I'm not going to give you that as a recommendation. That's a poor recommendation.
Hmm.
I said, but you actually, you know what? You want to be different. You're building your company. How about you make hiring and a part of that hiring process that those people are content creators? And maybe you become the first firm that actually has multiple content creators and you assign them different specialties for them to create content. So now you don't have just yourself being the face, you have now
Hmm.
your entire team being the face. So I think that then becomes a very sustainable strategy. But I don't say social because a lot of people go, well, social is everything. I was like, yeah, but do you know how many people are trying to be influencers? So the problem is that you have selection bias, you have availability bias in the success of being an influencer.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be like, yes, didn't you see so and so? So and so is doing an amazing job. It's like, yeah, there's also like 10,000 people who also aren't and are doing very similar things.
Yeah.
So social works, but I'm not going to put that in high probability. You want high probability? I gave you four that were high probability.
Yeah. Old school often becomes new school. And one that you didn't mention is email. I'm not sure where you rank that, but it's interesting. Yeah, social. I mean that pond. It's not a pond. It's an ocean, and you are a minnow in that ocean, where you can be a big fish in a smaller pond that is getting a lot more attention from your audience, from your perfect client, from your avatar. So, really, really interesting stuff. Anything you want to finish off and add to that before we move on?
Yeah, the only reason I don't talk about email right now is because I do a lot of email and email is getting more difficult. And the reason is because generative AI is making it more and more difficult for the noise to come through. So I think email plays a role. I don't look at email as a competitive advantage anymore.
Interesting. And how does AI fit into all of this?
A lot. The ability to personalize emails at scale is grotesque. It would be impossible in the olden days, I mean, I say olden days, like 3 years ago, for you to do one-to-one campaigns at scale. And for those that don't know, there's usually one to many, which means you send one email to many people, or you do one-to-one campaigns means essentially you're personalizing. It's, right now I could personalize emails based on someone's LinkedIn feed tomorrow for 1,000 people and send out 200 emails a day. That was not possible before.
Hmm.
So the receivers of this information, this email, are going to get desensitized, and they already are.
Hmm.
They already are.
So, if we think forward, as everything keeps progressing and it seems like everything's speeding up, um, where are these channels still the channels, or is there something new that's in the horizon that you're going, maybe this is going to take off?
I think so. It's not a new channel and it's not a new method, but I think product led growth, which is just a fancy word for having product marketing as a core pillar of your business, or yourself being a marketer and creating videos, is really going to be the future. Because what's going to happen is people are going to get to the point where they're going to ignore outbound and they will simply search for the solution, and they will simply educate themselves in their own free time in order for them to come to conclusions. And I think if
Hmm.
you have more marketing assets that are educational, that educate them when they want to be educated, you are more likely to win that deal.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's been the direction for a long time, but I think it's going to get more that way, especially as we start to, get so inundated with emails and outbound. We're going to get to the point where it's like, I just want to do this on my own time. And that's really where being innovative in how you leave your assets with your potential customers is going to become more important. That's why I guess they say the typical marketing cut sheets that you leave, your mortgage sheet, your real estate book, all those things, your business card are actually going to become more important because those are the things that they're going to pick up randomly when they need it, and they're going to read it, or they're going to go on your website and they're going to watch a video, or they're going to use a calculator, or they're going to do something that they want to do in their own time. And you just don't know when that time is going to be. It could be between making dinner. It could be when they're on the Peloton in the morning. You don't know when that's going to be, but I can give you this much. It's not going to be when you're going to be on a call with them.
Right. Yeah. And I believe that people will be able to cut through the noise and get to the exact answer a lot quicker and easier. We've always been relying on Google, and Google, of course, is putting all kinds of things in front of you to get paid. I simply don't use Google anymore. I just go to ChatGPT, and that's my new search engine. And
Yeah.
I quickly and efficiently get to where I want to go without going through, scads and scads of information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you do enough testing, you'll see that ChatGPT doesn't always give the best answers or the exact ones that you want. And you do have to invest some time with it to get the
Mhm.
answer you want. So I think you're right. I think ChatGPT is definitely useful. But I do think, as you said, getting to that answer and getting it served to you the way that you want is really the core theme here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go away from business a little bit more into personal philosophy, maybe some mindset. You're a brilliant guy. I've been really enjoying this. What honed your mindset, your skill, your gifts, because you're a gifted individual? Uh, were there some crucibles in life that brought you here, or how did that all come about for you?
I have a weird professional career, to say the least. Um, I went to school for marketing and entrepreneurship, but my first job was a VP of finance, and then for 4 or 5 years I was a management slash operational consultant, and then I was a COO for an ad technology company. So my background is not a marketer per se, but on the side of doing all of these roles, I always had a marketing business or some sort of marketing activity that I was doing, such as affiliate marketing or doing publishing stuff in search engine optimization. Um, and I think maybe to my own fault, the reason why I have gone to where I am is I like a challenge. I feel like when it's easy, I don't like it. It's not for me. And the reason why I gravitated towards marketing was because I recognized, man, like there are so many companies that are so jaded for marketing. There are so many companies that are doing well, but still have a very broken function. There is no single solution for marketing. There are approaches, and there is a way to build it well. But more often than not, you'll see it not being built well. And that's because you can spend so much time wasting time doing marketing because of the gold, shiny object syndrome and overconfidence. And so I've really just been in this role because I find it so challenging. It's so challenging, especially when I get to work in so many different industries, and it just drives my curiosity, and that makes me happy. So you want to talk about, again, your core theme of this podcast, return on life. I don't do this job because I think it makes me millions of dollars. I do this job because I've learned so much across so many industries that I am thankful for that, and I'm privileged for that. And I get to talk about really random things like jet fuel pipeline infrastructure and how that business works, and learning about how some planes are so poorly maintained in terms of gas and supply inventory that sometimes they use their own commercial planes to bring gas to another place because they can't get enough. I was wilded out by that because I was like, how does that even work? Like, are you telling me an airport doesn't have enough fuel for a plane, so they have to use their own planes to truck fuel to another airport? And he's like, yes. I was like, wow, the world is actually inefficient. And getting those insights and learning, it's amazing. It's so great to have that opportunity to talk to these experts every day of my life. Is I can again, it drives me wanting to learn more, and it just creates more and more knowledge for me to build from.
You vibrate at a very high level. I'm just telling you, you just got this this vibration happening up, a great energy. And I find it really interesting that you went from finance to marketing, like, very structured, objective, all the way to this, whoa, very subjective. And we'll just give it a go and see where it goes. I know you don't do that, but it's, like a lot of people think marketing is just, well, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. So it's really, really interesting that you've shifted so much, and I think you're so well suited for what you're doing just because you vibrate at such a high frequency. What do you think your greatest gift is? Is it a gift or a curse, or maybe it's both?
Oh, I'm definitely an overthinker.
Hmm.
I'm an overthinker, and that's a gift and a curse. I think overthinking can ruin conversations, but at the same time, when it comes to problem solving, it typically helps. And I think I'm an overthinker generally because I'm relatively open
Hmm.
in the sense of perspectives and challenges. And I think that's one of the reasons why clients are happy working with us, because I think when they call us and they have a discovery meeting with us, they start to realize, oh, Nathan and this firm is not a typical agency. And I got that literally just yesterday. He's like, you're the only one that gave me this idea. I was like, yeah, because I don't want to screw you over and give you an idea that I don't think that's actually going to work. Here's what I think is going to work. And that's because fundamentally, when I provide marketing strategies or marketing ideas, it comes with this holistic view of, okay, operationally, yes or no, financially, yes or no, marketing, yes or no. And if it doesn't
Hmm.
align with all yeses, then I go, I don't think I want to suggest that. And I think, that comes from my overthinking. If I was just a marketer, yeah, I probably would be like everyone else. Yeah, we should start a TikTok channel. We should really jump on this new trend. Have you seen Threads? Yeah, Threads is not doing anything. It hasn't done very well. It's barely caught on, right? It's so easy to be a marketer and just jump on trends and tell people that's what they're supposed to be doing. And maybe 1 out of 10 times they'll hit it out of the park. Like if I went on TikTok 6 years ago, then I would be a huge influencer. But again, so did all the people that jumped on Threads, and that's really not going anywhere. So people are like thinking they're savants because they chose to bandwagon hop early. It's just a bet, right? Threads had every foundational thing required to do well, and it didn't do well compared to Twitter or X. And TikTok, which was really just a pseudo version of Snapchat meets Instagram Reels, has done far better than anyone expected. So, you know, it's easy just to jump on trends, but it's
Hmm.
much harder to be prudent and safe like I am with most of my customers. And I think that's why, a gift and a curse, this
Yeah.
overthinking.
You know, you first adopters usually are big winners. Yet when you're the first adopter, you often doubt everything that's going on because it's not catching. So, like you're talking about Threads, you doubt that it's going to succeed, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the level of, like you're still seeing a ton of people being sticky on X, even
Hmm.
though that platform has dwindled and hasn't done much. Um, Threads might be interesting in another 10 years as new user bases and people grow up and they download Threads instead of X, and therefore the user base changes, and therefore it's not a success because it was able to steal the market share. It was a success due to the fact that the user acquisition is better.
Hmm.
And that's two different things. Doing something better and stealing market share, that's a success to me. Marketing to being a better job marketing and just user acquisition, I think it's just doing a good job. Um, on a marketing perspective in terms of user acquisition. So I don't think it's going to be that great. I could be wrong, but that's fine. But I have to be mindful of your time, right? If you were my client, go on Threads. Well, I don't know if it's going to be successful. So I'd much rather tell you, why don't you go own every single event in your backyard before we worry about Threads?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we all want to have the magic bullet, the bulletproof this, the bulletproof that, but it can't be. Um, I think it's more easy to kind of build a bulletproof life than a bulletproof business because we can control most aspects within ourselves, but we can't control everything around us. And it seems like you're pretty structured in what you do. What's your personal life look like in comparison to your business world? Do you translate them both back and
It's
forth
pretty
quite
darn
easily?
structured. It's pretty darn structured. I usually wake up between 4:30 or 5. I work out twice a day. I have set times a day where I take care of my daughter. I'm very regimented on my food. I'm very regimented on my supplements. I'm very regimented on the time I spend outside of those core activities. Um, some people go, "Oh my God, you live such a regimented life." And I always argue with people. I wouldn't say argue, but I debate with people. I go, "Yeah, yes, I live a regimented life, but I'm doing it in such a way where it's being very impactful and very beneficial to me." So it's not that I'm rigid. It's I know what I want and I know what I want to do. And so therefore I make time for that. And if you don't make time for that, how do you plan? Right. And so, for example, I'm going on vacation next week and I very rarely go on vacation. Well, what does that mean? Well, all the time between now and when I leave is going to be focused on my daughter and my business and my health. So I'm not socializing. I'm not going out. Why? Because those are the most important things to me. Yes, my friends are important, but I'll see them when I come back.
Yeah.
Right.
People that don't have a structured day, life, week, whatever, they don't understand how it gives you so much flexibility and freedom in so many other areas of your life. So, um, if you don't get it, you don't get it. And when you get there, you get it. And you can't understand why they don't get it. So I really get that. I was up today at 4:40. I've been up. I usually get up around 4:40, 4:45 every day as well. And I don't work out twice a day though.
Yeah, that's just I have a very regimented where I do cut and bulk cycles every year, maybe once or twice.
Hmm.
People say, "Oh my God, why do you torture yourself like that?" And I've said this now in multiple podcasts. I challenge anyone to do this. The first time you do a cut and bulk cycle, you feel like it's a fluke. The second time you do it, you still kind of doubt yourself. The third time you do it, all your anxiety from eating everything that you like goes away.
Hmm.
Because at the third time you do it, you recognize controlling my weight is actually not that hard. And if I put my mind to it, not only can I enjoy all the foods I want, but I can also feel good about myself.
Hmm.
So the first time, you won't feel like that way. The second time, maybe if you're a very confident person, you might. But then the third time, now I go into winter enjoying every dessert I want and without feeling the guilt. And that's great because I challenge you to think about it. You can tell me you enjoy it, but I can guarantee there's a part of your little brain that goes, "This isn't good for you." And that doesn't feel good.
Right. Guilt takes over as well. Hey, if you could sit down with yourself and move the clock back 10 years, so 2014, not 2024, what would you do differently? What would you tell yourself? So we'll start there. And then once you've shared that, maybe we'll go 10 years out. Where do you want to be?
I think I would have focused a bit more.
Hmm.
And I think that's just because I don't think anyone who says to focus does a great job. And I'm not going to like a great job explaining what focus really does. I think they I think they know that it's a practical piece of advice that generally you can't go wrong saying. And I will explain it for everyone on this call. My version of why focus is important. Focus is important not only because you don't have a lot of time in your day, especially as you grow up and you have more responsibilities, but focus allows you to be more efficient. So you actually do more.
Hmm.
And I think that's the part where people kind of skim over. Focus isn't just on the fact that you have one thing and you focus on it. It actually allows you to be more efficient. And when you're more efficient, you actually have more time. And when you have more time, you have more time to be better at something that you're doing. And trying to be a generalist, and you'll see this in a lot of people who are very good at their job, like good CTOs of technology companies, they will buy software because they go, "That's a waste of my time." Right. And I wish I was more focused, not only in my own pursuits. I really became focused in health only in the last 4 years. I really only became focused in this business 7 years ago. I sorry, six years ago. We started 7.5, but I really only focused a year into it. I really think in terms of some of my skill sets, I could have been more focused as I was younger. I think in terms of the business, we could have focused who we targeted better earlier.
Mm.
I think I could have focused the tactical services we were providing earlier. So I will challenge anyone listening that focus in all parts of your life drives an enormous amount of value. And you'll see that not because you're better at doing something, but because it actually makes time.
Love
And
that.
and you can't get time back.
Love that. I often say it's about bending time, and focus is really about bending time, creating more time, even though there is no more time, but you're bending it in such a way. And love that. Bend time. Three things I wrote down. Bend time. You get to pick your avatar. You should have picked your avatar a little bit earlier in your tribe, and you just got more value out of that. So that's great. How about 10 years from now? Where's Nathan
I
10 years from now?
do not want to be working in 10 years.
Are you
My
sure?
goal,
Are you sure? Listen, I'm 61 in a week. And that is a question I get asked all the time. When are you going to retire, Randy? You can retire. Go ahead, retire. And I go, ooh, I think this is what keeps me young. This is what keeps me energized. No, I mean, you pick and choose that a little bit, and you get to kind of maybe make more decisions. But gosh, I love being engaged and creating and doing shit, man. I just love it.
yeah, I think for me, so I think the definition for work is I don't want to have a dependency on me needing to work. It's not that I don't want to work. I think I will always work. And I literally spoke to one of my founder friends last night and I said, I think once I'm done this business and we sell and we get big enough and I build the systems and everything, I just want to start a technology company and just build it by myself.
Hmm.
And I think for me, the reason I want to do that is not because I don't enjoy the camaraderie of it. I just know what's so much more important to me, and that's being able to help my mom pick up groceries or be there for a friend in need or be there for my daughter. And these moments that I think are fleeting and so important to people's lives align with what's most important to me. It's not that I don't want to be intellectually challenged for the rest of my life, but I think money is one thing. And I think the second thing is what's going to make me feel fulfilled. What's going to make me feel fulfilled is I am healthy. I have a healthy relationship. My daughter is healthy and I am not tied to work and I have the ability to make choice. And I think that's really important.
Hmm. We've got a lot of real estate agents on this podcast, but entrepreneurs in general. So, one last question before we go into speed round. What's the future of an entrepreneur, a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, somebody that is, a solo entrepreneur? What's the future?
You better start using AI or someone's going to be doing deals faster than you.
There it is.
Period.
Yeah, mic drop. Love that.
Period.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's hit. Go ahead. Anything else?
No, that's it. It's just I hear some people who are just reluctant to touch it and they go, I don't know what you're doing. You're just asking for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, speed round. A few questions here. Are you ready?
Yep.
Awesome. Fine dining, Uber Eats, takeout, or home cooked meal?
So am I allowed to choose one? Is it only one?
Just one.
Home cooked.
Home cooked. Okay.
This is not very speedy. That was a hard one for
Uh,
me.
what do you do to let your hair down?
Oh, geez. You know what? Watching my baby just play.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry. It's definitely one of the things that I think allows me just to let loose. I zone out and it's great. I'm just very present.
Love that. Love that. Do you like music?
I love music.
Favorite band?
Okay, good one. I'm gonna say a toss up between Radiohead and Coldplay.
Ah, love it. Love it. Do you prefer text, phone call, email, or in person?
Phone call.
Phone call. Why phone call?
Uh, I would love more in person. I just feel like phone call is just more accessible.
More efficient? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Audible or hardcover?
Oh, I was gonna say e-reader, but Audible.
Okay. Audible or e-reader. That's good too. Last question. If you were a scratch and sniff sticker, and I rubbed your shoulder, what would I smell?
To be honest, it's gonna be meat because that's how much I eat. That's probably what it would be. I would say some sort of meat because I eat so much of that.
Are you a carnivore?
I'm a huge carnivore diet. Yes. So I majority of my diet is carnivore.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, Nathan, you've been an absolute privilege to have on the Return to Life podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you for being such a great guest.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for joining me on the Return to Life podcast. I'm excited that you're here. I need you to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Comments, reviews, guests that you think should be on this would be so important for us. So we want to hear from you as well. And of course, we're on all the social platforms where we are always discussing everything that is about that ROL, Return on Life.